Hey everybody, my name is Dowden, and in this tutorial we're going to be looking at how we can push our high end just a little bit louder by reducing something in our mix that is a very common problem, especially when dealing with our high end in terms of cymbals and hi-hats and even sometimes claps and snares and percussive elements, but also with our vocals and some of our synths. This is called sibilance, and it is the hard S sound that we hear, like a hissing sound. It's just but also with our sounds, we have a really shrillness in a certain area in the frequency, and that gives it a little bit of ear-piercing noise, which we can reduce using EQ and multiband dynamic compression. So I have two examples here. I have this drum loop and this vocal.
This is a test using...
So with the drum loop, we can hear that it's a little bit shrill in the high end. It's a little bit ear-piercing. So what we could do first is just grab an EQ and throw it onto the drum loop. And what we could do is just scoop across the frequencies to find where that shrillness is coming through. The thing is, we don't want to reduce too much of the high end, because if we do that, then we are kind of muffling out our sound and we can lose some of the interesting parts of the sound or some of the clarity. So we have to be very careful as to hone in on only the frequencies that are really loud. We also have to be careful when we're sweeping our frequencies not to think that it's really shrill because we're boosting it so much, because that can give us a false sense of the actual volume. Pay attention to where you think that the sibilance is coming through the most. I can hear a really prominent area right here. Pretty ear piercing. So what I'm going to do is reduce that slightly. Let's listen before and after the EQ. To the untrained ear, it might be a little bit difficult to hear, but we are just reducing a little bit of that really shrillness. And what we can do now is actually boost the volume of the sound, just maybe half a dB or 1 dB more, and it's going to allow us to push that without it being as shrill on the ear. So if it's lacking in the high end and you can't push up the volume because it's a little bit ear piercing in a specific area, that is when you'll be using this technique to reduce that sibilance, to reduce that high end nastiness, the harshness, and be able to introduce a little bit more volume or just balance out your sound a little bit better. The other example I have is just specifically vocal sibilance. So again, with the hard S sounds. So for this example, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drag and drop the EQ onto that. So you can hear right here, it's very prominent with that hissing sound. So I'm going to just reduce this slightly to reduce a little bit of that sibilance. It's very subtle, but it just gives us a little bit less of that harshness that we're hearing.
This is a test using sibilance.
It's not really taking away from the actual sound of the vocal, but it's not giving us that shrillness. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And if you'd like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Also check the description for another video where we use a different technique with multiband dynamics to address sibilance in our vocals and our sounds.